Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Overwatch Weekly. Before I get started, just want to say that I have a new mic, so if the sound quality is any better in the comments, let me know. I can always switch back to the other one if it sounds better. This one might be a little too quiet, so I can turn that up if it's a problem, but I feel like the sound quality is at least slightly better. It's not picking up on the same amount of stuff that the other one did, but let's get into the actual stories that I have for this week. Like I said, let me know down below what you think about this new mic, if you prefer it, or your opinions on any of these stories that I will talk about here today. First one is a PTR patch. The 1.35 PTR patch notes have gone live on the PTR, so let's talk about those. Only a few changes. The first of which is to Junkrat. His frag launcher projectile speed was increased from 20 to 25, and grenades now bounce less but explode sooner. The dev comments on this one say, with this change, we're looking to slightly increase the range at which Junkrat can land direct hits. The speed of his bombs has increased, but we tuned it so this wouldn't affect the arc of his projectile. This means that aiming with it will feel the same. The grenades bounce less and explode sooner, which will allow Junkrat to aim them more deliberately, and this will reduce the amount of rolling grenade spam when playing against him. Next hero with a change is Reaper, who has changes to Shadow Step. So Shadow Step can now be used in air. The time to exit Shadow Step has been reduced from 1 second to half a second. Reaper is now invisible for the entire time it takes to exit Shadow Step, and he can now teleport onto surfaces that would usually break, like railings. The dev comments on this one say Shadow Step was originally intended to be purely an out-of-combat mobility tool to traverse the map, since Wraith Form was already a great tool for disengaging. However, this made Shadow Step very situational, so we're increasing its flexibility to make it a better, less niche ability, and this will enable Reaper to use Shadow Step in more offensive situations. And for Symmetra, her teleporter is now no longer blocked when being placed by such objects such as railings or other types of breakable objects. There are some user interface updates. In social, there's now an option to set your profile so only your current group can view it. And in the hero gallery, you can now set your victory pose choice to random. Yes! I've wanted that. I like a lot of the victory poses for some of the heroes. It would be cool just to have random victory poses, because why not? So, nice little surprise at the end of every game of what victory pose you have. But that is it for the PTR patch notes. They will be linked in the description. Next story comes from Variety, and the story is how Blizzard reduced toxic behavior with Overwatch's endorsement system. And this opens up by saying, one of the most common problems that fans of Overwatch have is how any online match can quickly turn into an abusive shouting match because frustrated, sometimes hateful players. Shouting match between frustrated, sometimes hateful players. It's not a problem limited to Overwatch, but it is something problematic enough to put Blizzard into action. It's why research scientist Natasha Miller and the other members of the Overwatch team at Blizzard decided to implement an endorsement system. It encourages players to reward positive behavior like shot calling, teamwork, and having a positive attitude, while giving them incentives to report disruptive behavior. Disruptive behavior is any negative behavior that disrupts the core intention of the game, Miller said in a packed room at GDC, which is the Giddy Game Developers Conference, for those of you who do not know. It's things like intentionally losing a game, typing or saying horrible things in chat or on mic, or being away from the keyboard during a game. That behavior often came when players with different goals interacted in a match, like two players who are working their way up the ladder, sometimes to try and go pro, getting matched with a casual player with a similar ranking. It led to players' frustrations brewing over a lack of teamwork or communication. Miller said that the type of behavior was occurring due to the lack of societal consequences. Quote, it's a difference between physical and online communities, she said. Quote, if you're constantly tardy and you only do the bare minimum at work, you're not going to get promoted. You have to watch someone else who does the work get the raise. In online communities, there are usually no consequences for bad behavior and no rewards for star players, she added. Quote, we wanted the community to have their own reward system. So then it goes on to talk about the endorsement system and how it works and whatnot, and the loot box rewards. But the interesting part here is one of these final paragraphs. Miller analyzed several sets of data after the endorsement system had been out in the wild for the better part of the year. One data point that examined the number of reports per match showed that there had been a 40% reduction in matches that had disruptive behavior. Quote, we also put out a server to see if players perceived the endorsement system to be the reason for the decrease in negative behavior. She said, quote, perception can be different than reality. It was close in this case. Players agreed the system was working the way we intended it to. End quote. And this thing ends by saying Miller finished her talk by saying that she was happy with the results the data showed, and they'd continue to listen to feedback and improve the system in the future. Now, there's a lot more to this thing if you want to read the whole thing in the description, but it's a very interesting thing to look at, and a very interesting thing to look into, because I do think toxicity has gone down. I currently sit at level 4 endorsement, which is probably about where I belong. I don't do as much mic communication in quick play than I do in comp. I don't really play as much comp, so there's not as much communication on my part. Sometimes, I'll type something in chat like, hey, can we do this or whatever, but in general, I think it works. I haven't really had many bad games recently, and when I do, like I usually endorse people, but if there's someone who I'm like, oh, this dude stinks, this guy's just really toxic, I won't endorse them. And I think that's obviously the best way to go about it, and that's what they want you to do. So I've actually been very happy with this system so far. I think it's been a very good system so far. And I hope that it works better as we go forward. I hope they start to work things out more. I know they have talked about another social feature coming, and we still don't have that social feature yet. So, of course, whenever we do get that, I'll talk about that. But for now, we'll have to wait and see what that social feature is. But the next thing I want to talk about is coming up, and it is the Overwatch League All-Star Game. So this is, of course, coming from the Overwatch League, and they say, it's time for the best of us to take center stage. Today we are announcing the dates, ticket availability, and voting for the Overwatch League 2019 All-Stars. All-Stars festivities kick off on Wednesday, May 15th, with a series of custom games pitting Atlantic and Pacific All-Stars against each other. Then on Thursday, May 16th, the Atlantic and Pacific squads compete in the official All-Star game powered by Intel to determine which division is best. Join us in person on May 15th through 16th at Blizzard Arena Los Angeles in Burbank, California. Tickets are available now on access.com, which is axs.com. The All-Stars custom matches will air live on ESPN2 on Wednesday, and the All-Star game will air live on ESPN News on Thursday. Both days of All-Stars will be live and on demand on OverwatchLeague.com, the Overwatch League app, our Twitch channel, MLG.com, and the MLG app. You can, of course, vote for players for the All-Stars. Voting ends on April 28th, and the starting rosters will be announced in early May. You pick 6 players from each division, 2 tank, 2 support, 2 DPS. And then after the starting rosters get announced, an additional 24 players, 12 reserves for each team will be selected by Overwatch League players, coaches, casters, and league staff, and the complete rosters with reserves will be announced in mid-May. There's a couple of rules about who is eligible. Players must have played at least 10 maps during regular season matches to be eligible for an inclusion on 2019 All-Stars rosters. However, any active player who is a 2018 All-Star is automatically eligible to be voted onto a team as a starter or added as a reserve. So those are your little things there for All-Stars and the Overwatch League All-Star event. Speaking of Overwatch League, of course, this past weekend was the Stage 1 Finals, and I'm not going to spoil who won, but it was between the Vancouver Titans and the San Francisco Shock. It was an incredible game. It was long. It was 3 hours. Went the distance, all 7 maps, but it was an incredible match. I'll have a link in the description to an article that will, one, link you to the video if you want to watch it. The problem is, it does, spoil who won right away, so be careful. I'm sure you know who won by now. It's something that you see, but if you don't know and don't want to check it out, just go to twitch.tv/Overwatch League and you can find the VOD there. But there's an article down below that you can look at. But with the Stage 1 finals and Stage 1 playoffs, we saw the Overwatch League on ABC for the first time. If you're in the US, you might know ABC as the big channel. It's a major network. And it was broadcast on ABC. And with it came some very fun tweets and Facebook posts. So I'll have a link in the description to a couple images from Dolphins Rock on Reddit, who put some nice collages together of some really great Reddit or really great Twitter posts. I retweeted some of them on my Twitter, so you can always look there too for some of my favorites. But there's some really good ones on his pictures. You can check those out there in the description as well. The final story, which is one of my favorite stories so far this year, comes from the Philadelphia Fusion, where they have announced the first ground-up, purpose-built esports arena in the Western Hemisphere, Fusion Arena. Now, the video should be playing on your screen right now, where you'll kind of see the nice video, but it's incredible what we're getting here. And I don't know how many teams are going to do this, I don't know how many teams will build an arena like this, but the Philadelphia Fusion have announced that they are building one, and it's going to be incredible. It's going to have 3,500 seats. There's going to be events held here that are not just esports events based on what they have said. They ideally for them, they want to be able to do other things here as well. Have concerts, whatever types of things they will find necessary. It'll be in Philadelphia, in the area where all of the other major sports arenas are in Philadelphia. So Lincoln Financial Field. I don't know the names of the basketball arena or the baseball field, but in that kind of general area, it'll be a very nice facility based on what we've seen. I don't know if other teams will have facilities like this as well. I don't know if, I know in Washington, D.C., they're building some kind of esports thing that isn't necessarily related to the Washington Justice, but it may become the Washington Justice's place. Who knows what we might see in New York, in London, in Hangzhou, in Shanghai, in Seoul. If we're going to see new buildings in L.A., what are we going to see in San Francisco and Dallas? There's a bunch of cities to check out and for us to see what they end up doing in these cities for these teams. But I'm really excited to see what the future is for these stadiums and the 2020 season when the league goes global. But those are all the stories that I have for you this week. Let me know your reactions to any of the stories, and once again, the mic, now that you've gotten through the whole video, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the mic. Is it good? Is it bad? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. But that is where we're going to end this video off. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing, as it helps out a bunch. But until next time, I'm going to get out of here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.